Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli back with another review video, and yes, of course, continuing on the Star Trek marathon. Now, after 6 movies with Kirk and the crew of the Enterprise, we've now come to the 7th Star Trek film and the passing the torch to the next generation. Star Trek Generations. Yes. I actually do love this movie. I don't think it's that bad, and it's great. This was at the time, one of those films where that was just so epic. Predates, say the Marvel films. You know what I'm saying? Like epic crossover and so on. And because you have both the best captains of Star Trek, Kirk and Picard, together. Because. Let me see, and fun fact, because some fun facts about this movie, for one thing is, after, the Star Trek The Next Generation, they filmed their last episode, All Good Things, the cast were on a, 10 or 13 break, I can't remember how many days it was. It's somewhere between there, 10 or 13 days. After filming the final episode, and then they went on to film the movie. So, yeah, and because, also, I would assume, during those days, they were kind of touching up, Save the Bridge. Although it kind of was, some bits of it were altered, for, say, the sequences, specifically, of course, future Picard and so on. So, but anyways... So the opening to it is pretty good. The first thing we see is, a bottle floating in space, and the credits rolling, and it's a ceremony, the sailing of the Enterprise B, and apparently there was an alternate opening where Kirk is parachuting, paragliding and such, and meets up with Chekhov and Scotty, and they're telling him that he has to do the ceremony. He has to be there for the ceremony of the Enterprise B, and for some reason, from what I heard, William Shatner requested for it to be cut out. Why? Because he thought it wasn't good enough? And for Kirk's opening introduction? I don't know. I haven't really looked that up, but, but it's great, because, well, it's kind of nice. The first scene and we see of Kirk and Scotty and Chekhov is when they enter the bridge of the Enterprise B. Now, originally, here's another fun fact. Originally, there's 2, because it connects to one act, to one of them. Leonard Nimoy and DeForest Kelley were going to be in the film, alongside with Shatner, of course. Spock and Bones were going to be with Kirk, which that would have made sense, that, would have been great, because, well, let's face it, because, the 3 of them, the trio, Kirk, Spock, and Bones. But there are many things as to why, specifically for DeForest Kelley. Okay, starting with DeForest Kelley, because of his, it was up at that point, after the last 2 Star Trek films that were made from 5 and 6, DeForest Kelley was getting old, and up at that point, in the mid-90s, his health and so on, and he wasn't able to do it, so he passed that along, and, as for, say, Leonard Nimoy, he was not only considered to appear as Spock, but also considered to direct the film as well. But he turned both of those down, especially, say, for directing, because, some changes he wanted to make to the script, things that he felt that should be changed in the script. So, But you know what, it was kind of, and also, Leonard Nimoy even said that reading Spock's dialogue, it made no sense. Why would Spock be saying this? But the lines were given to Scotty, and then Leonard Nimoy said that it made sense. Yeah, it did, because, and McCoy's lines were given to Chekhov. And you know what? The lines that are that Chekhov and Scotty say, they work. And you know what? It was nice for once that we got more of, say, Scotty and Chekhov, the other crew members. Not to mention, George Takei was considered to appear again. Okay, the whole cast was considered to appear. Not just Scotty, Chekhov, and Kirk, but Uhura, Sulu, Spock, and Bones. of course, we didn't get them, and for Sulu, like, Sulu's appearance was that, he at one point would take helm of the Enterprise B, but George Takei felt that, you know what, that wouldn't work, and because Sulu worked very hard to earn the rank of captain as he was captain of the Excelsior. So, yeah. Anyways. And besides, getting, like, say, an appearance of Sulu's daughter made sense. Demora Sulu, played by Jaqueline Kim, if I'm even saying the last name right. And the captain of the Enterprise B, Captain John Harrison, I want to say, and played by Alan Ruck, best known for, for Cameron in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and I remember him. He was in Cheaper by the Dozen, the one with Steve Martin and Bonnie Hunt. Anyways, and Kirk giving the words "take us out," a standing ovation, and the Enterprise B is to just make a quick run around and return back to space dock and where they were parked at, and they pick up a distress call and two transport ships. They're called the LaCool. I think I got that right, yeah. And they're caught in this ribbon, in which we find out that it's really called the Nexus. And they can't break free, and the first one gets destroyed. Scotty beams them up. He beamed up, I don't know how many, but like 50,000, I want to say, out of 150. I remember that number, 150, but I'm not really sure on the first number, like how many he really transported. But one of the passengers, first off, is, of course, Malcolm McDowell, who plays Dr. Soren. And then we get an appearance of Guinan. So, makes sense, and we find out more because the connection between, like, say, Guinan and Soren, and with, they were caught in the ribbon. At one point, because the Enterprise B can't break free from, escaping the ribbon, and so, Kirk goes down and fixes, activates, like, a tractor beam, or whatever the heck it's called, deflector power, or just, I can't remember. And he does so, and they're breaking free, as Scotty says, we're breaking free, and at one point, the ribbon, hits the Enterprise B, damaging part of it, and, they contact Kirk from down there, no answer, Scotty, and the captain, they go down there, and Chekhov meeting up with them, and the last lines from Chekhov, starting from Chekhov and to Scotty, my God, was anyone in here? And the last line from Scotty, aye. Yep. So that was James Doohan's last line as Scotty, and was the last time he would appear as Scotty. Yeah. And what better way for his last line to be, aye. So, and I love the trumpet that plays, it's like a memorial service, you know what I'm saying? And then we cut to, I think, 75 or 73, I want to say 75 years later. I think I'm right on that. 75 years later, we cut to, of course, an ocean, basically, and a boat that says the Enterprise, and we see none other than the crew of the Enterprise D. Everybody, because, from Jean-Luc Picard, Riker, Data, Troy, Worf, Geordi, and Beverly. So, and there's a ceremony going on, and I think it's obvious, I wondered if people immediately assumed that this was taking place on the holodeck. Probably so, because why else would they be out in the ocean and on a boat, seriously? And a ceremony that happens that basically, Worf, giving the rank of commander. So in, the Next Generation series, he was lieutenant, and now went by the rank of commander. So Lieutenant Commander Worf, I want to assume. Yeah, I believe so. It's kind of funny because they make him, walk out in the plank and jump up and get the sailor's hat, and Riker just jokingly, says, computer, remove the plank, and he jumps, he falls, it's hilarious. Later on, also, Data, doesn't realize that it's funny, and he tries to be funny by pushing, Crusher into the water, and Geordi's just telling him, Data, and Data's like, that was, and Geordi quickly responds, not funny, and I just like how they look down, just, And then Picard, like, he receives a message from Earth, which we find out later on, because you see the look on Picard's face as he's reading this. We don't see what the message reads, but just it's something that just totally destroys him. You know what I'm saying? And we then like see the Enterprise D arriving at a space station where a sun is in orbit. And of course we once again get the appearance of Dr. Soren, who's on the space station, and apparently Romulans attacked the station. And also in the film, Data, has the emotion chip with him. That's one big part of the film. I don't mind it. I didn't care. Like it was okay. Like it did okay in the film. Like the whole thing going on with Data's emotion chip. You know what? It kind of made sense for it happening like say in the movie, because I don't know. I think it was the right time, and if they did it early in the show, just I don't know. But I think it worked when the movie happened. So when the movies happened for the Next Generation crew. So, anyways, and so yeah, and Malcolm McDowell, I should say Dr. Sora meeting up with Picard at 10 Forward, and telling him that he has to complete a project he's doing, and even like good lines from Dr. Soren, they say time is the fire in which we burn. Yeah, that's great. And Data and Geordi they're on the station, and Data just laughing, and at one point like the emotion chip gets to him, like causing him trouble and so on, and they can't contact the Enterprise. Dr. Soren comes in, he knocks out Geordi, has Data gun pointed, and we find out why Picard just is so devastated and so on. We find out, and when Troy comes in, that Picard practically lost almost his entire family. His brother and his nephew, they burned to death in a fire, and his brother's wife did survive, apparently. The one thing, and I know that me and my dad would be saying this too, the one thing that they did that's messed up is, like, the pictures in Picard's family book, in his book, like, they didn't get the actors who played, Picard's brother and nephew in the episode Family. What the heck? Why didn't they do that? I don't know. But anyways, then later on, like, the sun was destroyed by a probe that was launched into the sun. Riker and Worf, they go back and like they get Data and Geordi, and Soren has is firing at them, and Soren is receiving sends out transmit coordinates when he gets contacted by who else than a Klingon bird of prey, the return of the fan favorites Lursa and Bator, the Dura Sisters. It was kind of nice that for one last time, like, okay, the Dura Sisters didn't appear that much in the Next Generation, and they appeared twice, and they appeared in one of the third episode of season 1 of Deep Space Nine, and then after they appeared one last time in season 7 of the Next Generation, we would get them one more time in Generations, where they would be alongside of Soren, the main antagonists, and also because they setting course for the Viridian system at Viridian 3. Geordi's kidnapped by Sauron and the Klingons. And Data and Picard, they do Costella cartography. Yeah, I think I said that right. Which, I guess, from what I heard, like, it's a room that they never used before on the Enterprise. And it's the last time they use it. I don't know. But it is a cool room and such, And, looking at, like, say, the ribbon and so on, and we find out that, that any ship because Picard asks, why doesn't he just fly into it with a ship? And Data's like, our records show that every ship that enters into the ribbon is destroyed or severely damaged. And, there are many other options, like how, like, Sauron entering the ribbon. But but let's just keep going. Keep going. And of course, the bird of prey arrives there, and so does the Enterprise. Picard, like, tries to make a negotiation with the Dura Sisters, and then, like, Picard exchanged himself for Geordi, like, Picard being their prisoner, a prisoner in exchange. Picard transports down to Viridian 3, while Geordi's transported back to the Enterprise. and Picard and Soren coming face to face and dialogue between them. And what happened to Picard's communicator? Why did he not? He had it on with him when he left. Why doesn't he? I don't know. I really don't know. But anyways, and even like Soren put something in Geordi's visor that would help the Klingons destroy the Enterprise. Find where they're penetrate their shields, and thus they do. Let me tell you, I think that was a pretty epic scene and an epic battle, especially with Dennis McCarthy's music. Because, and again, once again, ILM's magic, of visual effects and the models. I'm telling you, just really fantastic. And of course, eventually the Enterprise does penetrate, like, say, their shields, their cloaking device, plasma coils, and yep, and the Enterprise, they fire at the Klingons, and they're destroyed. That's the end of the Dura Sisters. They got what was coming to them, and, Data just, like, yes! And cutting back to, like, say, Picard and Soren, and, like, Picard trying to get through the shield that Soren has, as he's preparing to launch the missile at the sun, the Viridian system, and, because of the damage that the Klingons did to the Enterprise D, there's a coolant leak, and they have to separate. They have to do saucer separation, and yeah, and also I'll go ahead and show this because, like, yeah, and it's in the thumbnail you saw this, and like this came out in 1994, of course, and because the damage and and it's pretty cool, so. Yeah, and it does this too, like you push these buttons. Woo! So there you go. That is pretty cool. So that's another thing too, because again, the saucer separation sequence was fantastic. I'm telling you, because the best effects done in a Star Trek film, and because looking at the behind the scenes of that, because the saucer crashing into a model field, grass and so on the planet Viridian 3, it's fantastic. And even, say, when those cuts, seeing the inside of the Enterprise being destroyed, it's just fantastic. And, oh gosh, even, I don't think it would be the same not mentioning this, Data's reaction as, they're making their way down to the planet, just, oh shit. That was pretty funny. That was. I mean, it was. I think for once that kind of fit, and well, let's face it, Data's a motion ship. Okay, that's pretty much it right there. And so Picard's still trying to he made his way through the shield because of an open rock hole, and trying to stop Soren. He fails. The missile launches. The sun is destroyed, causing a wave, and the ribbon making its way, and that cool and famous shot, I want to say, iconic shot where Sauron just reaches his hands up in the air, letting the ribbon get him, and it gets Picard too, and the ribbon gets out of there, and pretty much, everybody of the Enterprise D is killed, and we cut to where Picard is in the ribbon, and a family he wished he had, and during Christmas, and I feel like I heard that, I don't know, some people consider this a Christmas film. How? I mean, just because it has just because there's one part of the film where it has Christmas to it, that doesn't make it a Christmas film, does it? I don't know, but no, I don't think so. I mean, it's no problem watching it during the holidays. I mean, come on. Anyways, and so, even Guinan is there, and, she isn't really there. Like an echo of the past, I want to say, yeah. And he realizes, of course, that it's not all real. Guinan tells Picard that he can get extra help, and we see, of course, Kirk, according to Guinan, from his point of view, Picard just got, no. Let me repeat. Let me start again. According to Guinan, from Kirk's point of view, Kirk just got there. Yeah, so, and, really cool, because Kirk and Picard finally meeting, two famous captains of the Enterprises, and even eventually when Kirk realizes that it's all not real, and some pretty good dialogue, I want to say, like when Kirk asks, and like Captain of the Enterprise, and close to retirement, I'm not planning on it, and what my, here's my advice: don't let them promote you, blah blah blah, and like and even Picard saying, "Come back with me, help me stop Soren," and like Kirk. Apparently, Shatner had a hard time trying to say these lines, or I don't know. I mean, either like it was difficult to say, I want to assume, I don't know, but saying, "Who am I to argue with the captain of the Enterprise?" And even Spock being mentioned, well, Bones and Spock being mentioned, like one thing is like when they're in Kirk's house, like there's a clock that he notices, and he gave it, and apparently he said that he gave it to Bones, and then when he mentioned Spock, Kirk says, if Spock were here, he would tell me, of a logical human being I was, something like that. And the face that Picard gives, I want to assume, like, well, it has to do with, like, say, well, when Picard was with Spock, because, he knew Spock, so, yeah. And so they make their way back to Viridian 3, like, everything kind of starts over again, like, where we last left off, where the Enterprise D was crashing, and Picard was making his way to stop Soren, and this time with Kirk, and that was pretty epic, because, and there was an alternate version of that, where Soren shoots Picard from his back, and then Picard shoots Soren, but it was different in this. Like they're trying to get to the launching pad, the missile launching in the sun, and fight it, and they're both like fighting off against Soren and trying to get the remote that activates it from cloaking / decloaking. And at one point, because like Picard calls him captain, and Kirk says, "Call me Jim." And the look that Picard gives, just, it's pretty cool. And of course, part of a bridge, like, breaks off, and Kirk trying to get the remote, and that, like, music that plays, like, and with the trumpet, and that even played when, like, we get that one shot where the Enterprise D saucer where it stopped crashing. So, and, like, Kirk jumping and getting the remote and, like, saving the day, becoming a hero, of course, true hero. Well, he always was a hero, legend. And the part of the bridge that he's on breaks off, and he falls down to his death, basically. And Picard succeeds, like self-destructing the launch pad, and when Sauron makes his way there, he realizes that he failed, and he's killed instantly, when the launching pad explodes. And Picard, going to Kirk, and, Kirk's final last words, and, oh my. Okay, here's what I have to say about that. I don't see anything wrong with that. There are many good reasons for why he said that. One is this. Well, this came from a book from Shatner, that basically Kirk went where no one had gone before. And another thing is, I think me and my dad said this, that he was seeing death, basically. And also, another thing is, I think I also heard about this from somebody else, that this was Kirk's last adventure, his last ever adventure before dying, and yeah, that makes sense, that, like, Kirk realizes that it was all coming to an end for him, like, no more adventures. So, yeah, and Picard burying him and putting his old communicator there, yeah, and I can clearly see that one shot that's a bit far away, like, and Picard, like, just standing over Kirk's grave. I can clearly tell that's his stunt double. Why couldn't they get the real Patrick Stewart? I don't know, because of height issues or just for safety reasons. That's what I want to assume. I don't know. And the epilogue to this, like, the Enterprise D, like, as Picard says in his star log, that 3 Starfleet vessels have arrived to pick up the survivors of the Enterprise D. Data recovering Spot. That was a touching scene. Like, even like, say, Spot's cat. Oh, no. Data's cat. God. Data's cat Spot survived, and the chip was malfunctioning because Data was crying. Also, like, there was also a deleted scene where, like, Worf and Jory, they pick up Picard and ask him about the doctor, and, like Picard saying, like, we won't have to worry about him. So, and the very last scene with Picard and Riker, recovering some things, like one thing in his reading room, and that one, like, I forget what it's called, but I think a lot of people complained about that because of, from the episode of The Next Generation, The Chase, and with Professor Galen, somebody that he admired, and I forget what it was that, that Professor Galen gave to him, but that was just like, say, the case, like the holder, like it was it was protecting what was inside of it. So, that's what I think that's what it is basically. And so, they're recovering Picard's family album, and last dialogues between Riker and Picard, and, talking about life and so on, and like Riker even saying, I plan to live forever, and Riker saying, I always thought I'd get a shot at the big chair, and like Picard saying, perhaps you will, number one. Yeah, but come on, let's face it. Eventually, Riker did become captain of the Titans. I mean, he was captain briefly. He was briefly captain of the Enterprise for a while, and for a little bit in the Best of Both Worlds Part 2. But and Picard saying Picard to Farragut, 2 to beam up, and one last shot of the 3 starships, leaving the Viridian system and going into warp speed, and boom, the movie ends. And great piece of music during the end credits for sure. I gotta say, with all that being said, Star Trek Generations, I love it. It's fantastic. It's mutual. Like, some people, it's heavily mixed. Like, people like it and don't like it, but I'm one of those people that actually do love this film, and it's not that bad. Aside from its cliches, like, some problems with it, but still, I think it's not that bad. And I think the story is okay, great crossover with Kirk and Picard, and a good, passing the torch, and it's got great visual effects and great music, yeah, and, again, this film was the passing the torch, passing the torch of the Star Trek films to the Next Generation crew, and thus, we know what would come next after Generations, and basically, to put it this, we know what would come 2 years after this film that has to do with, how do I describe it? Resistance is futile. We know what that is. And how do I rate Star Trek Generations? I'll go ahead and give it a 8 out of 10. Yeah. 8 out of 10 stars for Star Trek Generations. You guys let me know what you think of Star Trek Generations, what you thought of my review. Leave comments and give this review a like as always, and yep, there you go. So again, 8 out of 10 stars for Star Trek Generations. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of Star Trek Generations. More reviews coming your way. They're going to be awesome. Keep looking forward, and I'll see you guys in the next video/review. And of course, the Star Trek Marathon is still continuing. And now, we've come to the Star Trek films with Captain Jean-Luc Picard and the crew, this time, of the Enterprise E. Stay tuned for the next review later tonight. Take care, peace out, and make it so.